Well, folks, we're getting really close to this election, and before we get rolling with this video, I just wanted to take a minute and thank everyone out there who has supported my channel and came along for this ride with me. It was just back in late March that we put that plaque on the wall of 100,000 subscribers, and I remember at the time thinking, where will we be around election time? And here we are at over 320 some thousand subscribers. I truly appreciate all of you for coming along for the ride. So if you haven't already, if you watch me every day and you've not got around to hitting that subscribe button, be sure to do so. Leave a like and a comment if you feel like it. And folks, let's just steamroll towards this election and keep our eye on the ball like never before. This is an election unlike any we've ever seen before, because I don't ever recall seeing Republicans out on the campaign trail along with the Democratic frontrunner, and the main reason they're doing so is because they want to preserve American democracy. I think for people who haven't been following this the entire time and they're just tuning back in at the last minute to see what's going on, and they're saying, well, the grocery bill's high, it was cheaper when Trump was in office. If they're thinking that way, and that's as deep as they've gotten the weeds with this, then they've missed out on a whole lot, and they may not understand why someone like me says this is not about Democrat versus Republican. And I don't feel that Liz Cheney out there campaigning alongside Kamala Harris is her campaigning against the Republican Party. What she's doing is campaigning for American democracy. There's a lot of people who I feel like don't pay attention, and they will just chime in to vote, and a lot of them will think Trump is funny and will laugh off a lot of the things he says. But folks, this truly is no laughing matter, and Kamala Harris points that out masterfully in this next clip.
I would add to that an additional point, which is, and don't think it's a sick sense of humor and relegate it to simply being that. You know, I've said many times, I do believe Donald Trump to be an unserious man, but the consequences of him ever being in the White House again are brutally serious. And take it from the people who know him best. His former chief of staff when he was president, 2 former defense secretaries, his national security advisor, and of course his vice president, who have all in one way or another used the word that he is unfit to be president again and is dangerous. Listen to the report that what his former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a general, said about him, that he is fascist to the core. And these are people who were in his administration, who worked closely with him in the Oval Office and the Situation Room. And so I would caution us also to, you know, because some people find it humorous what he says and think it's just silly, but understand how brutally serious it is. Well, the courts will take care of that. We'll take care of November. Yes. We'll take care of November.
You know, folks, I know so many people who will say things like, he don't mean that. He's just saying that on the campaign trail just to get people worked up and just to get people talking. He knows the media will talk about it, and it is kind of funny, man, that he said that. No, it's not funny at all. This is no laughing matter when you got a guy up there saying that he would turn the American military on people who disagreed with him, wanting to shut down entire networks, wanting to go after comedians who make jokes about him. You can sit and say all day long that it's funny or that he don't mean it, but you really are going to put American democracy in someone's hands who has said all these things, and then you stop and think about, okay, they've said all these things and they realize that people went along with it. I mean, if you're Donald Trump and you get reelected, you look around and go, hey, I said and did all that on the campaign trail. It was never a deal breaker. They pumped their fist anyway, and they cheered for me, and they brought me on board. So, yeah, he's going to feel empowered to do exactly what he's been saying that he's going to do. So I think it's very important we all stay focused. And in this next clip from Liz Cheney, she talks about how a whole lot of Republicans out there aren't going to say it out loud, but they're going to go into the booth and they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. Take a look.
I think that we are facing a choice in this election. It's not about party. It's about right and wrong. And I certainly have many Republicans who will say to me, I can't be public. They do worry about a whole range of things, including violence, but they'll do the right thing. And I would just remind people, if you're at all concerned, you can vote your conscience and not ever have to say a word to anybody. And there will be millions of Republicans who do that on November 5th, vote for Vice President Harris.
You know, I have people reach out to me all the time and say, Brando, I would love to be speaking out. I would love to put signs in my yard, but I fear for my life, and I fear for what will happen to my vehicle if I put a Kamala Harris sticker on it. There's a whole lot of people out there who aren't speaking up, but that doesn't mean they aren't paying attention and haven't been paying attention very closely. I know they have because they've been telling me, and I'm sure she's right that there are going to be Republicans who's going to do the right thing, and that's why I really believe that Kamala is going to win this thing decisively, and I think MAGA's heads are going to explode and they're going to cry foul. Of course they'll do that. But there's a lot of Republicans for fear of retribution because he sicks the cult on them, and they know that. And they're also, a lot of them are trying to save face and save some sort of political ground. I have way more respect for Liz Cheney, even though I wouldn't vote for her in an election because I'm sure there's too much we disagree on. But there are Republicans out there who aren't saying anything. I can respect Liz Cheney for saying something, but the ones that are sitting back right now and are just trying to save their careers so they can latch onto the Republican Party after it's over, I don't really have much respect for that at all. But I really believe that there are more people on the Democrat and Republican side who is going to vote for Kamala Harris, but you'll never know they did. And she's absolutely right. You don't have to tell anyone, to the ones who are worried about retribution. You don't have to tell anyone how you voted. That's your business. That's your right to vote however you see fit. So, be sure to vote on the side of democracy, and you can go around knowing that you did your part to save it. But in this last clip I want to show from Liz Cheney, right here, she's talking like the Republican Party that I remember, because she's talking about how that we need someone in there who our kids can look up to. Now, this sounds like the Republicans of, say, 20 years ago, and I want to show you this clip and then come back and talk more about it.
I could have just said, I'm going to do everything I can to work against Donald Trump, and there are a lot of Republicans who have said that. I have decided, and I am very proud and I'm honored to have made the decision to endorse Vice President Harris. And I have gotten to spend time with Vice President Harris. I have had the chance to talk with her about how important it is that we have two strong parties in our country, about the kind of president that I know she'll be. And I think all of us, it doesn't matter what party you're in, we all know this is a good and an honorable and a great nation. And we have to have leaders. You might say, I'm not going to agree on every issue, but we have to have leaders who take that seriously. We have to have leaders who are going to be sincere. And as a mother, I want my children to know that there is someone sitting in the Oval Office that they can look up to, someone who can be a role model. And I'm incredibly proud, and I know that Vice President Harris will be that.
Now that sounds more like the Republicans that I grew up with, because I do remember a time when ministers in my part of the world and family members would take me aside and say, hey, we can't have Bill Clinton in office because Bill Clinton is immoral. Bill Clinton cheated on his wife. Bill Clinton should be ashamed of himself. And we need somebody in there that our children can look up to. I can't count the times I heard them say that. The ministers, and I've had family members, sounded exactly like Liz Cheney sounded right there in that clip. But somewhere along the line, they completely jumped the shark with this thing, got behind Donald Trump, and for the life of me, the one part I'll never understand is how the very people that used to warn me about Bill Clinton being immoral just accepted Donald Trump hook, line, and sinker and said to me, well, sometimes the Lord calls immoral people. Sometimes he called King David. He called the Apostle Paul. I mean, the Apostle Paul was out murdering Christians, and Jesus hit him with a blinding light and brought him into the fold. And I'm like, okay, let me get this straight. So Bill Clinton was immoral, but yet he created 22 million jobs while he was in office. He balanced the budget and left us with a surplus. Okay? So he did a whole lot, love him or hate him, immoral or not. He did a whole lot to help working class people and to lift people up. He did that. So God didn't call him, but he called this immoral guy over here who did nothing but make rich people richer. And by the way, the Bible says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So if God was going to look down on, let's just go ahead and for the sake of the argument, give it to him that Bill Clinton's immoral. Let's give him that talking point just for the sake of this argument. If that's the case, you're telling me God looks down, he sees two immoral men, and he goes, I'm going to pick this one who is going to call his enemies, say he's going to say immigrants are poisoning the blood. He's not going to welcome them. He's going to mass deport people. I'm going to pick this guy who's going to be found liable of sexual abuse and who's going to defame the victim. I'm going to pick this guy who's going to try to overthrow his own government because he couldn't stand the idea that he lost an election. And I'm just going to, because I can't call this guy over here that created all these jobs and balanced the budget, left them with a surplus. It makes no sense. They have no argument. And I don't care one bit to tell them that. Anyone that makes the God calls immoral people, you're just showing your hypocrisy for what it really is, and we all see through it. And it's not a flex at all. You didn't flex. You just showed us who you really are. But we're going to show them who we really are on Election Day, because we're going to go to the poll and we're going to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and we're going to have democracy restored in this country, and we're going to have to put in a lot of work. I say this all the time in my videos, and I know I may get repetitive, but I just keep having to drive that point home. We're going to have to do a lot of work to fix the damage that's been done to the faith of our democracy, but it's going to be worth it. So when people ask me what kind of content am I going to be subscribed to after the election's over and Kamala Harris, what are you going to talk about then? Well, we're going to be talking about how we move forward, and we talk about how we're not going back. We're going to talk about how we're going to keep moving forward and getting the stench of Donald Trump off of us. It's going to take a long time, but I truly do believe that we can do it.